Do hear you. Hello, everybody. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged, brought to you by my day job over at One Firefly. Today is Wednesday. It is February 26th. It is just a little bit after 12:30 p.m. here in Florida. And as I often do, I'm going to jump over to Facebook just to make sure that we've got the streams coming in and cooperating. So bear with me here as I check that to make sure, in fact, I am live. And it does look like I am live. So this is a big day. You can see the where are they at? The balloons here. This is actually our episode 100. And I was just reminiscing earlier this week about when this started. I made a post on LinkedIn actually this morning about this, and I want to say it was right around April of, or no, it was right around the fall of 2016, approximately around that video on Facebook was becoming a thing, right? So Facebook now could stream video, and they were slowly rolling it out. And as an agency that serves, customers throughout North America in the custom integration market, it's my job and it's our job to be on top of new technologies. And so I brainstormed with my team, and we came up with this idea of doing this show. And it officially launched in April 2017. And for those of you that have been watching or listening, we've gone through lots of different software as we've tried to, lots of different microphones, lots of different tech to try to figure out how to be great at this. And that brings us to today. And I'm proud to bring you our guest. He's a longtime client and friend of One Firefly, and all around great guy, and well respected in our industry. And that is Lee Travis of Wipliance out of Seattle. So let me go ahead and bring in Lee. See if we can get this. There he is.
Oh, was that today?
Yes, it's right now. Were you busy texting?
Sorry, I was just working. I forgot that was today, but let's do it. Seems like as good a time as any.
Well, your office there seems to be perfectly decorated with 100. Oh, yeah. So is that just by accident?
I don't know.
Where did that come from?
I don't know. When these things were.
All right. Woo! All right. That's awesome. That is fun. Well, Lee, how are you doing, sir? Oh, what do we got
Good,
there?
How are you? Oh, there's all these, I don't know, my desk just looks like somebody threw up 100s. It's got 100s everywhere. I was hoping they were $100 casino chips, but they're just actually paper.
That is funny. And I'm going to put, and what I can do here in our little software environment, Lee, is I can, any comments that are coming to us live on our Facebook page, I can put them on the screen here.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, exactly. It is dangerous. I do have to do some auditing and filtering.
Yeah, you may want to proof some of that stuff.
I will proof it. But here Jordan is, Jordan, he's saying hi. And
hey, Jordan.
You got Melissa. No, this is Stephanie. She's saying show 100. Can't believe it. And here's someone else that you know. This is Kendall. She said, there you go. There's the 100. That's for Kendall. Excited to have Lee join us.
Hi, Kendall.
And all sorts. I'll put more comments up on the screen. If you're out there watching live, certainly drop a comment in. Tell us where you're coming to us from, and we're planning on a fun conversation here with Lee. So feel free to interact. Please do so. But Lee,
easy with the gongs.
Yeah, easy. Well, again, we'll get back to that filtering. Only depends how I feel as we go forward. Whether I put some of the gong questions up on the screen. All right. So Lee, some folks listening and or watching may not know you, may not know your background. And so I always like to start there, if you don't mind, and maybe just tell a little bit of your background and your story, how you came to being the dude running Wipliance out of Seattle.
So the dude story. So if we go way, way back, I started out in car audio in 1987. I was 18-year-old that loved cars and loved music, was trying to figure out how to put those things together. Went to my first consumer electronics show in 1987. So the one I just went to in January was my 34th consecutive Consumer Electronics Show. So I've been doing this gig for a long time. Went from car to home and love to hear from some car audio guys out there. I know there's a lot of them in this industry. Ex-car audio guys, I'm guessing.
So when you were doing car audio, like, is this in the years when you would like try to make cars really loud, or what was the goal when you say you're like, I didn't live through that age. I wasn't a part of the car audio scene. So what does it mean to be in the car audio scene?
So the car audio scene back then was cell phones. So just go back and imagine a $5,000 cell phone and a $1,500 a month cell phone bill. And that was after, of course, pagers, of course. Doctors held on to those a little bit longer, but that was a big part of our business. And in the car audio piece, it just like it is what we do today, it's really about what the customer wants, right? So some of it was just about, SPL, sound pressure level and volume. Some of them were about sound quality. Some of them were about making a killer system disappear. So it's very much the art and craft that we do today in homes and businesses. Do they want it loud? Do they want it hidden? Do they, is sound quality the most important thing? So every customer or client has their own shtick. And so it's, that carried over. So from 93, 94, got into home stuff. And that was the beginning of surround sound and DVD and projectors that took 3 people to install up on a ceiling and hope you didn't drop it on your head. And, you'd break everything and everyone underneath it.
The big Runco projectors? Yeah,
these were like military, it's like, one of those old light bulb jokes, right? Like how many people does it take to hold it and screw it in? It literally took, 2 guys to hold it up and 1 guy to put in the lag bolts to make sure that thing didn't come down. Wow. And, from there we got into commercial, and it started out with audio video because that was my passion. But then builders wanted us to do structured wiring and security, and they wanted, one person to do it all, or, one throat to choke, as they call it. And so
I've heard you say that more than once. One throat choke.
Are there any marks? Okay. So, and then over the years, I built another company that we grew to, 3 states and 100 employees, and had some great success and learned some lessons about acquisitions and culture and what to do and definitely what not to do. Right. And that's, all of my knowledge comes from, I don't think any colleges would have accepted me. So all of my knowledge comes from, hard work and
school of hard knocks
and mistakes made. And then today, Wipliance started that in 06. And so now we're at, 14 years and have a fantastic team. And we have offices in Seattle and Scottsdale. Have an electrical contracting company up here in Seattle as well. It really comes down to the people, right? Building a great team and loving what we do. And I was reading some other articles about successful people, and whether it's Bill Gates or still Steve Jobs or Warren Buffett or Elon Musk, the common trait was curiosity. So I know, as you and I've talked, right? You're consuming all those podcasts just because of your thirst for knowledge. And so, I think I've always just been really curious about all this stuff and love the technology aspect.
What type of work? So Wipliance, what are typical projects? There's although I call all the folks in our industry, technology professionals or AV guys, the reality is you're all a little bit different in that you have different specialties and different kind of areas of focus. So what is the Wipliance area of focus? What are the sweet spot for your types of projects?
So, and then the name Wipliance came from wireless appliance, because starting it, 14 years ago, and I think I had reserved and trademarked the name, 2 or 3 years before that, I really felt in the future there would be so much more we could do wirelessly that would come out that wouldn't require new construction and hard wiring for us to do it. So today our clients range from, I know some people out there do, only cost is no object projects or only 6-figure projects. And I would say we really kind of run the gamut. Direct to builder business is only, is less than a third of our business. Commercial is about 25% of our business. And the rest of it then is, retrofit and direct to consumer. So I feel like, we're fairly balanced, and that helped us through the recession. I started that company right, pre the recession before. And I think that kind of kept us agile to not be 100% dependent in one vertical. So today we do anything from literally, our requirement is that we're selling a complete solution. So if you want to buy, a sound bar and a TV, then we take care of that. And if you want to do a, $500,000, $1 million project, we do that on that other side. And we do, MDU and high-rise buildings. And so, we're, I think we kind of go soup to nuts in that category.
Okay. And yeah, you actually mentioned a few things there that I know in my notes I want to go a little bit deeper on.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun, I promise.
Okay.
But I do want to give a few more opportunities for shout outs. We got a nicely active crew watching and commenting live here. So we've got Bobby Dodge over at ProSource. Actually, I've got that as one of our topics. I want to talk to you about ProSource here in this forum. But he says, hi, Lee and Ron, two of the best in our industry. Looking forward to seeing you both in Vegas at the summit. And for sure, Bobby.
What's up, Bobby?
Likewise. That's just around the corner. What is it? Not this Sunday I'll be heading out there, but on the 8th. I'll be heading. When are you going down to Vegas?
On the 6th.
Oh, you're going. Why are you going so early? You going for fun in Vegas for a few days?
It's a weekend. It's Vegas. I don't need much of an excuse to go.
That's a good point. All right. And
so are you gonna come in early now?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. You put me on the spot here publicly. Maybe. I'll think about it.
Am I allowed to ask questions?
You can ask questions. This is no holds barred here.
Okay.
Well, speaking of which, Chris Palmer just posted, man, that Lee Travis should be a model. He's not on every piece of CE branding. How come, I think is what he meant to say was, how come he's not on every piece of CE branding signage? I don't know. That was borderline. That wasn't too bad. I did go ahead and read that one. We'll see if they get any more
juicy
as we go. And then we got Chris Gamble. He's watching from the UK, and he gave us a bunch of 100s. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. So Lee, when in the evolution of your business, being an entrepreneur, I heard 2006 is when you launched Wipliance. When did the electrical contracting division come into being? Did it happen right at the same time, or did you evolve into also opening that division?
So I did have some experience with electrical before in my previous company. And so we started Obot Electric, which stands for On Budget, On Time, in 2008. So 2 years later. It was just great planning on my part. I know we've talked before about businesses on the edge, so nothing like starting an electrical contracting business right before construction comes to a screeching halt in 2009.
That's when I started my business entirely, was right there perfectly in 2008 to enter 2009. So yeah, I feel your pain.
Let's just say it was touch and go.
Amen. From your mouth to God's ears. Wasn't that true? But you know what? It made us stronger, didn't it?
It did, for sure. There's no doubt about it. It's like, you don't pray for hardships, but you're thankful on the other side.
Now, I would imagine having an electrical contracting division enables you to maybe more seamlessly tackle certain types of projects.
It does.
Was that the philosophy, and why to do that? Was to give you, say, easier access or entry, or maybe even get you in the door earlier into some types of projects?
Well, I think it's easy in hindsight to come up with some great explanation for why you started something,
sure.
But it's not as fancy as all that. It was, as you know, many solutions or companies come out of fixing a problem. So, we're basically out installing a lighting control system, and depending on other electricians, and they said they're going to be there on Friday to put it all in, and the customer's expecting to have this lighting control system for a party that weekend, and the electrician calls us and says they can't make it because they're still busy on another job. And literally, it was at that moment where I was like, we need to have control of this piece of it to make sure that we can, give our customers a complete solution. So it started out from a need of, we need lighting control systems installed, we need power for projectors, we need power at TV locations, we need power for our equipment racks. And we just, we need to control the customer experience. We need to bring that in-house.
Do you, I'm curious, if you don't mind, I'll dig a little deeper there. Let's say with lighting control, I know you're a big Lutron reseller. You're a big, you're close to Lutron. They're a great company, and lighting control is important for your business, as are lighting fixtures. Selling lighting fixtures is an important part of your business. When you are securing a control project, so let's say you're selling a Lutron lighting control system, will you then, as a part of your strategy, also sell the electrical services to, run the Romex or install the lighting control, and so that you're able to sell the hardware and the electrical labor? Or sometimes do you find yourself selling the control and then partnering with whoever the electrical contractor is?
It can kind of happen either way. So if we're on a project and the contractor has their favorite electrician, and electrical has changed, other than these recent advancements in lighting, electrical has changed very slow over the years. So there's lots of good electricians out there that do a great job. And so if the builder has an electrician they're in love with, we don't try to upset that. We work with them and try to build a great relationship. If they don't have someone, or we're just coming in to install our stuff, then obviously, we refer that to our sister company, Obot Electric, to handle the installation of the lighting control and power needs and requirements. If the client and or the builder is open to it, then we try to be selective about the jobs we take on. We're not trying to, we're more of a boutique electrical shop, so we're not trying to take everything. We're really looking for, the clients that want to do some great lighting, that want to do a great, if they're just looking for the cheapest price, then we're not those guys.
Got it.
But if they want somebody who understands lighting and lighting control and, and what all of that is, that's looking out for, not doing outlets in tile if they can be done, under cabinet or in cabinet or on the sidewall, making it look really clean. If you're just looking for a low price per square foot, then we're not those guys.
What's your perspective? Because you have a unique vantage point as an integrator and as an electrician or electrical contracting business. What's your perspective on kind of this, what appears to be this increasing rate of low voltage lighting fixture solutions? So there's all these LED technologies coming out, and there's even buzz or talk of maybe there'll be homes with no Romex pulled for lighting control. What do you, and I'm going to ask you to pull out your crystal ball a little bit. What do you think's coming down the road in that regard?
That's a great question. And so I'm not an official knowledge source on this, but obviously we see those trends, and we see it coming more from the vendor side than we see people asking about it. So there isn't a lot of consumer knowledge around this, but with some of the, low voltage only lighting products out there, like, Color Beam and some of that kind of stuff. I mean, they've proven that technology can work and can be done over, CAT or network cable. I think from what we've seen so far, there's still, and that part of the industry changes very slowly, right? So you're not just changing with electricians, but you're also changing with code and inspectors and all these things. I remember when we were doing Lutron lighting control and we were mixing high voltage and low voltage in the same box, and we literally always had to bring documents to say that this was legally okay and get it passed. That's the same challenges today with this low voltage lighting. The electricians aren't sure about it. The clients are like, do I feel safer to pull Romex and know that today or in the future I could do anything high voltage? And then there's obviously people that want to push the envelope, that want to do the low voltage lighting. And then once that has happened, then there's the inspectors. Are the inspectors comfortable with it? They want to see, here's a fixture being powered off of a low voltage cable. They haven't seen that before. It's new to them. And so, you got to kind of do those steps like we had to with lighting control in the early years. As for long term, clearly every LED light is stepped down at some point to a lower voltage. So at some point it does convert to a low voltage cable.
There's a transformer in line. It's just, where is it?
Yeah. So today it could be 6 inches or 12 inches or 6 feet or 12 feet away. The difference is you're talking about, can it be 80 feet away or 100 feet away, right? So that's where that technology is new. It's dropping down to low voltage at some point anyway. So it seems, and there's always the question of where do we put these transformers, and are they going to generate too much heat, and are they going to be serviceable? Are they up in an attic space? Are they inside of a cabinet? Are they under a cabinet? Is it wet down there? So those are all questions, but I see no reason why. And I know from the lighting vendors that I'm talking to, they're all trying to figure out, the same question, right? How important is that? Should we be developing a product like that? And so I think it's an open opportunity. Will someday you end up with low voltage contractors pulling all that lighting? Will someday you have a house that's all wired and low voltage? It's really hard to tell, right? I mean, our computers today can plug into USB and power up. Our phones can. A lot of these devices can, but stoves can't. Hair dryers can't. Clothes dryers can't. So there's still a lot of things that require that high voltage connection. So I think the one thing that's constant here that we've always seen is change.
Yeah, right.
Right.
If you can't accept change, you shouldn't be in this industry playing ball.
And to me, that's what makes it exciting. If it was the same thing every day, all year, year after year, to me, I don't think I'd be doing this, because it's that curiosity, it's that change, it's what's coming next. What do we need to prepare for? What do we need to learn?
I'll ask you the trick question. If you were going to build a new house and you're building it next year, 2021, would you pull Romex to the lighting fixtures, or would you pull low voltage cable to the lighting fixtures?
I would pull Romex to the lighting fixtures.
Okay. Would you pull both, or would you just pull Romex?
Today, planning a house for 2021, I would pull Romex, because it would leave me lots of options, right?
Okay. That's fair.
Because there's a lot of great product out there. I've got lots of choices that are electrically powered. I have limited choices that are low voltage powered. Now, obviously, for any of I love layers of light. So, being able to do under cabinets and above cabinets and accent stuff. So for all that stuff that's already going to get stepped down to low voltage, running low voltage cable to it, I'd be fine.
You mentioned Lutron, or you and I both mentioned Lutron, and Lutron last year, or maybe a couple of years ago now, it all blends together, acquired Ketra. And so I'm curious how the world of talking about circadian rhythm lighting and tunable lighting, what are you seeing out there? Because that then ties into this conversation of wellness, which is a growing theme in our industry, and certainly in the marketing from the vendors to the dealers. I'm curious, are you seeing that now from the dealers to the consumers down to the street level? And what do you believe is in our future with those products and categories?
So, with Lutron acquiring Ketra, and with them essentially Lutronizing it, which means to make something that's of their quality standard and scalable. Honestly, at the CEDIA show, that's been, people said, hey, I come back from the show and they're like, what's the best thing you saw? That's been the most impressive thing I have seen by far. We have it's not completed because we're still furnishing it and doing the AV stuff, but we've just completed the Ketra showroom here in Bellevue, Seattle area, for those of you that don't know the area. And it's exciting. I've seen it obviously in client projects, and I've seen it obviously at trade shows, but to have it here and be able to show people. Now, once again, I don't think there's a ton of consumer knowledge. We're not getting a lot of them asking about it, but who's excited about it is the trades, the interior designers and the architects and the builders that are, leaning in. They're interested and excited, and they're, you could ask Melissa from our office. They're beating down the door to, and who knows, maybe Melissa will pop on here with some video of some of that stuff.
Sure.
Because that space is, in the process of it. Like, it literally just got carpeted this week. But it's, we've already shown it to people and they're super impressed. Now, is it for everybody's budget? No. And is everybody going to put it in every room? No. But, it's a glimpse of where the technology is going for sure. And so those that want the best, it's impressive what you can do with it.
I remember vividly this past CEDIA going through the Lutron Ketra demo, and it was a fantastic demonstration. And I can imagine the design community going through something like that and certainly being impressed and finding ways to really, perhaps in a superior way, highlight their architecture or their design and their spaces through the use of tunable lighting. So I'm with you. I agree.
Well, because we went through such a bad phase with LEDs, right? So to me, I compare it to music, right? So we started sinning and compressing our music down to the smallest possible file so that we could get 1,000 songs in a little shuffle, right? And so, now we've gone the other way, all the way back to high-res audio and opened that up. We did the same thing with lighting. We were like, let's save energy. So we came up with these ugly compact fluorescent lights that looked terrible, made you look terrible, made everything look terrible. And then blue and green LEDs. And now, to me, Ketra is the equivalent of high-res audio. But now there's also a lot of other great products from vendors like WAC and DMF and American and those guys that's, at different price and performance points, but now where you can get some really good looking, LED with warm dim and, then obviously step up into the color changer stuff.
That's a great comparison, by the way. I hadn't thought of that. And so Melissa, if you're listening, and Jordan, that should be some blog content for Wipliance, because that was good stuff right there. That was a great comparison, great analogy. There are quite a few more comments here, so I'm just going to read a few of them to you.
I don't know if Melissa's going to be one of them showing off any of that.
Yeah, Melissa should be posting that reference you made for sure. But Chris Palmer says, in all seriousness, Lee is exceptional at what he does. He's been a great leader in ProSource, a great friend and mentor. As the line between high voltage and low voltage continues to blur, Lee's intuition in having both businesses already solidified will continue to pay dividends. So there you have a believer in your philosophies. And then we have a question here actually from Jordan. He says, one thing that stands out to me about Wipliance is how it has locations in both Washington and Arizona. I'm curious to know how that happened and what Lee sees as the biggest challenges of trying to grow his business in two different locations. Because let's say two different locations that are not close to each other. Obviously, that's not a car drive away. You're jumping on an airplane to go to a different market. So that's an interesting question. You are operating in Arizona and Seattle. How did you decide to do that?
So Jordan, that's a great question. And once again, I just think, and I know Ron, you and I have talked about this kind of stuff before. It's like, the stuff on how a company gets started or how close to the edge it gets at one point or some of those things. I think people really love to hear those stories, right? So there could certainly be a story that's, magnificent about the opportunity in the Arizona market and the growth in the valley and all those kinds of things. Or there's this one that is, we had a lot of clients down there because if you're from Seattle and you have the kind of weather that I'm looking at outside, which is cloudy and overcast, expected rains.
Scottsdale's a nice place to be.
Yeah. Scottsdale, Arizona area is a great place to be with 330 days of sun. And so if clients can afford a second home, it's either going to be a mountain home or it's going to be a sunshine home. And if it's sunshine and you're traveling from Seattle, like for you guys on the East Coast, it's going to be Florida or the Bahamas or something like that. South Carolina, maybe. Here in Washington, it's going to be Palm Springs or, Scottsdale, Arizona. It could be California if you have other business or another reason to be there. So we were already going down there to take care of clients' homes and projects that were from up here.
Is that a common vacation spot? So people, the tech industry or whoever it lives in Seattle, they'll often buy a second home down in the Seattle market, or not Seattle, but Scottsdale market.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of clients that have homes there, homes in Palm Springs and in California. So when you have that relationship with a client and they trust you, they would rather just bring you down to do the same thing in their new home or property down there and manage and take care of it all. And then because of my car audio background, a lot of the car audio manufacturers are there, Rockford Fosgate and Orion, and a lot of these guys came from that space. And so from going there in the 80s, I just remember, having this crappy weather in Seattle and you'd have this amazing predictable sunshine down in Arizona. And so the question is, how can I spend some more time down there? So we would do clients projects down there and then builders would say, hey, if you were here more, I'd use you more. And, it just
one thing grew to another, and now you're operating in two markets.
Bam.
Bam.
As far as the challenges, it is, for clients going to enjoy their second home, it's a, 2-hour and 15-minute flight. So that part is easy. Whereas some people would expect us to grow to somewhere like Portland, right, which would be an adjacent market to Seattle. But, going down to the desert, it definitely has its challenges. And starting in a new market, a new business where you just kind of have just a handful of existing clients and relationships, it's tough to build something from scratch like that in another market. And I know, Ryan's doing that.
No, one of our signs just collapsed.
I didn't tape those up there for the record, though.
All right. That was not your tape. That was clearly Chris Palmer's tape. That's what that was.
No, Chris was fantastic. But it's there's definitely challenges. And, I'm always, I get other dealers asking me those questions. Hey, we're thinking about opening. And I know there's a bunch of East Coast dealers that have businesses down in Florida for the same reason, right? Yeah. But it's, it has all the challenges of opening a second location plus logistics. And so it's, it's a big learning curve. And so to build something from scratch is both exciting in the same way that when we started Wipliance 14 years ago, it was like, you're in the trenches, fighting, scrapping for every piece. And so to go do that new market has both been exciting and exhausting at the same time.
Yeah, it's hand-to-hand combat.
You got to be like when you open your West Coast operation.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I moved in 2015 to virtual. So I have I have people in LA, I have people in Colorado, you name it. I've got, we're now at 41 people, and they all work from home offices. So it's, I guess in that respect, I have 41 offices.
There you go.
So funny comment here from the one and only Mark Fisher. He says, is Lee Travis paying Chris Palmer? No, I think they like each other, Mark. I think that's what it is. I think that's okay.
Chris is fantastic and a fellow member of ProSource. And I know Bobby was on there earlier, and ProSource is a buying group. On the surface, gives us buying power as $20 billion in combined buying power. But what it really is it's relationships with guys like you and guys like Mark and guys like Bobby and Chris that have been on there so far. But really made up of the best dealers around the country. So I would be part of it, and I'm on committees and that kind of stuff to give back, because it's really those relationships with these guys and gals, where you go there and learn, and can ask questions from other dealers in other markets or other dealers in adjacent markets.
What would you say, Lee, to the, if there's about, I'm going to say approximately 1,000 dealers in some group, okay? Which means there's, depending on who you talk to, north of 10,000 that are not in any group. What would you say to those not in a group about why they should be in ProSource or in some other group? Like, what are
you doing?
What are you doing, man?
It's just, I just don't, now not everybody can become a ProSource member. So you have to apply, and you have to, have a real business that takes care of real clients, that does quality work. So, that part gets vetted. But if you can join ProSource, and obviously there are other buying groups out there, we just spent a bunch of time to really interview and decide which group we want to be part of. And then I asked myself the question, why hadn't we, I think we've been members for 10 of those 14 years. But then I just kicked myself for not joining earlier, because the buying power that you get makes us competitive with big box retailers. So for our customers, that's the advantage, that, I'm on a TV, we're the same price as Best Buy is, right? So that buying power makes us competitive. But that's not even the most important thing. It's the things I learned from the other dealers, those manufacturers and times, with other relationships, them putting the relationships together. I mean, that's where I met you through. And so, as a group, we find solutions and can put something together on a scale that I couldn't not individually. But at the end of the day, the single most important benefit would be the relationships and the things that I learn, from the other members.
All right. I believe it or not, we've been recording for almost 40 minutes.
What?
And I still have so many questions I want to ask you here on the show. So I'm gonna try to knock through some of these.
Speed round.
Just in my last show 99,
okay,
I interviewed Caesar, and he's our EOS traction implementer coach here at One Firefly. And so we did a little session on EOS traction, which is the process and the operating system that we are now implementing here at One Firefly to try to be a better business. And I actually, just in riffing with you before we went live, I didn't know this. You're interacting with EOS traction in some way, or are you? What's your experience there?
We are, and I didn't realize how many other people were talking to, Noah, Leon. They've been doing it for 6 or 7 years, and until we talked earlier, I didn't know you guys were doing it. So, EOS is Entrepreneur's Operating System. But, as your company grows and you have these growing pains, whether they be from having 3 companies or 2 locations or just growth and scale, you have growing pains, right? So, what's the medicine you take for that? I think you have to be open and willing to learn. And so we had our leadership team read the book over the holidays. And then we got together as a team and said, hey, do we think this is something that will make a difference in our business? Talking about these things, implementing these things. And so it's made a huge difference just since the first of the year in metrics and KPIs that we're beginning to not do, just start to measure and just see what's happening with those things. And really, being honest with ourselves, because you can obviously speak for yourself, but you read that book and you're like, oh my gosh, we have all these problems, right? And then you read the second half of the book and you're like, oh my gosh, everybody has lots of problems. The biggest companies, I mean, I know people that work for Fortune 100 companies, and when I hear about some of the stuff that goes on, you're thinking you wouldn't think that happens in a Fortune 1 company. You just realize that all companies have issues, and they stem from humans more than likely, and growing pains. And the nice thing is it gives you a plan and a method on how to begin that improvement, and that there's no expectation that you're going to get all those things perfected overnight. But for us, we've hit different ceilings along the way, and we're building for the future.
And you are so in the EOS traction world, you can self-implement, or you can hire an implementation coach.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't so confident in my ability to self-implement, so I hired the implementor that is working with us as we're getting our training wheels, or we're riding with our training wheels through this process. Did you choose to do the implementer coach, or are you self-implementing?
We have had great success so far self-implementing at our meetings along the way. Obviously the book talks about, setting up 2 days where your whole team goes off site. We weren't able to do that. So we've had, 6 4-hour meetings away from the office that, we have a moderator set that's cracking the whip to make sure we stay on time and on schedule. And so far we've had good success with that. So I guess I would liken that to the gym membership. There's 2 approaches: one that hires a trainer, right, because they know that they're not going to be disciplined enough to do it. And then there's the next one that gets accountability partners. And so everyone in our group is holding everyone else accountable. There's 6 of us on the leadership team that are driving these things forward.
Are you holding your L10 meetings every week?
We are. Yep. Yeah.
How are you digging the L10 meeting?
Well, let's
not
just say
to geek out too much, but
yeah, they're not down to 90 minutes yet. We're still having, because we weren't able to have a 2-day offsite with everyone initially, we did these 4-hour meetings. So we're still having those until we get to a point we feel like we can cut that down. And, as you know, from your business, it's one of those things that you feel like you don't have time for, but then once you start doing it, you're like, we don't have time not to, right? Because you
don't have time not to. I mean, you and I talk to lots of business owners in many different capacities, and I think the most powerful thing I've learned over the years, one is how much, the older I get, I realize the less I know. And I realize there's just so much power in stepping away from the business and working on the business, as opposed to just being busy. It's very easy to be busy.
It's very easy, and it's different to work on the business than in the business. And so, your mind tells yourself you don't have the time, but it's like, you could say you don't have time to go to the gym either, right? But then when you go and you start seeing those improvements, which is where we're at today, then you're like, we're sticking with this gym thing.
No, I dig it. All right. I'm going to go back. I'm changing topics totally. So my audience is going to go, what is he doing? All right. 5G is clearly on the horizon, and it's clearly going to affect us in some way. Melissa even tried to keep me on track here and posted this question. How do you feel about 5G? Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Melissa. So that's what's like her keeping me on track all the time.
Yeah. Well, she helps us both. So we're sharing in that attention. And I'm going to even further geek out. So I'm a T-Mobile phone user. That's my phone company. I just got my new iPhone 11. And on the T-Mobile website, they now have Bill Nye, the science guy, educating on 5G and even the different types of 5G, because there's short wave, medium wave, long wave, lots of different ramifications in terms of the reach of that signal into the home. This is clearly going to disrupt our industry in many ways, I would think. What is your kind of vision of how that's going to happen?
So, disclaimer, I'm by no means a 5G expert. I mean, I've definitely checked it out at CES and some other seminars and what manufacturers are working on behind the scenes. And, its standards are just, being set. But when you see what its capability is, that, today everything we do requires a hub or a processor, whether that's your home network. And obviously, like we said earlier, I mean, that's the exciting part about this industry, is that it's always changing, right? So to stay with it, you got to be, paddling out to that front edge of the wave, which can both be scary and exhilarating. And that's the part that I love about it. But as you get onto that front of that wave and you start to look at it, you're like, wait, this doesn't require, we weren't even doing networks 10 years ago. Now it's one of the single most important things to the reliability of our system is that network backbone. I mean, and you know that from owning a business to your office, if your network goes down, everything's down.
There's no automation unplugged.
There's nothing. Yeah. So with 5G, to be able to communicate device to device, and I know, Verizon and AT&T hold the most amount of licenses, followed by Dish, followed by the new combined T-Mobile Sprint. So that will tell you the kind of multi-billion-dollar investments these companies have made in licenses. But the device-to-device communication, not having to go through, so for that motion detector to be able to talk to that keypad, to talk to that, network device sensor to talk to this computer without having to have a hub in between that talks to another hub. It's basically translating English to German and German to French and French to Spanish and so forth, right? We have all these devices in between to basically translate. Once everything's on one, central platform and can communicate 5G to 5G, I think it's going to explode what the market is. So the question is, will the market be ready? Will the dealers be ready? How will that roll out? What will vendors develop? But it's definitely going to change the market and provide an opportunity for some and lose others, which is kind of how this industry has gone over time, right?
Do you think we'll see it talked about more? I'll just say at the upcoming, there's all the buying group show season here over the next couple of months. And then, of course, back, down in September, we'll have CEDIA. I mean, do you think we're going to start to see this being talked about in vendor booths?
I think it's still too early? I think it's still too early. I think, is this, 3 years away before we start seeing devices in our industry? I think probably so, but I'm not an expert, right? And real, full implementation, 5 to 10 years. I mean, if you look at how long it took to go to HD and took to go to 4K and some of these other technologies, right? And it requires, not just our stuff, but content, it requires multiple parties and standardization of platforms. I think it's a future opportunity that scales out our business to a larger market, right? So I think that's the opportunity, and I think it'll be exciting both for dealers and for consumers. And it has huge implementation, obviously, outside of our industry in terms of safety, car-to-car communication and car-to-cell phone communication. And
am I remembering correctly that there's some talk that it changes the role of the network in the home? If to the example you gave a moment ago, where at the moment every IoT device in your house with an IP address needs to go through the hub or the local network switcher network in your house and then get reported up. Is it with 5G that now we're talking about every device potentially just directly through that high speed, high bandwidth link reporting to cloud-based processors? So does it change the architecture of the network in the home, or is it yet to be seen?
I'm going to say yes to both. For sure, it will change the architecture, right? Just in its communication. But I do think, there's going to be other questions like security, right? Today, you use your network as a firewall and as security for your business and for your home. So how will all these devices remain secure, right? I mean, that's one of our clients' most important questions these days is about security, right? Like, it's great I have these cameras and I have all this other stuff, but how do we keep all this stuff secure?
How to keep it safe. All right, I'm gonna switch topics one more time, and I'm gonna actually put up on the screen. See if technology behaves, your website. And so, yeah, there we go. We got to shift a little bit so we're on camera. There you go. There you go. And so when you and I met each other a number of years ago now, what I discovered in your business and in your brand is this strong affinity and appreciation, for marketing, but video, the use of video in your storytelling as you're talking about your business, your brand, your offering. Where did that come from? Because the videos, these are all, I had nothing to do with this. This is all you and your team producing just fantastic content, representing deployments of technology, both commercially and residentially. Where did you learn to do that or know to do that? Can you talk to us?
Well, as you know from this industry and everything that you do in a marketing standpoint, right? That you can certainly tell a story, and then if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a video is worth 1,000,000 words. I mean, today, if you look at, other than our discussion about podcasts, so you can drive down the road or run or walk your dogs in your case or whatever, and listen to and consume content for the curious mind. There's a ton of content, whether it's binge watching TV shows or, ads or whatever, that is, video, right? So it's you can, instead of telling the message, you can show the message. And so we just thought video was the future frontier of, communication with people.
Why do you think more your peers, your friends at ProSource, your friends around the country, your competitors, why do you think more of our industry doesn't utilize video?
Because it's not easy.
Okay, so tell us about that. How do you do it? How do you do what you do? I know it's hard.
So
how do you make that happen?
It's just like when you launch this show, right? It wasn't easy, and it takes time, and you just determine that over time that's going to pay off. Same thing for us with video. Most dealers, as you know, don't even take enough pictures of projects, right? So I'm sure when you're putting their marketing stuff together, you're like, all right, let us know what you have for pictures, and you're helping to supplement.
Usually met with silence after we ask for that content, like, boo, are you still there? Hello?
Yeah.
No, Ron, we'll just use your stuff, or we'll use the vendor stuff. That's usually the response we get.
So, and everybody's busy, right? And so you're, going from one job to the next job and getting your customer taken care of, but taking time to stop and take a photo. And then, video, though it's, a much stronger message, as from doing this show live, right? It's also more work to shoot a video, because you have to say, what is it we're shooting? What's the message? The content, the editing. Now, so we've got a great team with, from Melissa, who chimed in earlier, to, we've used some different video people, but we've landed on somebody who helps out. And video also is not inexpensive. And so we've just tried to kind of find that peak of the value curve in terms of capturing the video. Some of it can be done, over a phone, but most of the stuff we try to do is professional. And, we were having a meeting yesterday. We've got, 6 or 7 things in the can already. They either need editing or need some more shots or whatever. And so you're just trying to push forward to get those things complete. But that's a great business card for us to put out there to send a video, because most other people don't have it. And the customer, we could talk to them for 2 hours. They could watch, a couple-minute video and they get it. And
at a high level, because I'm just mindful of time, and I know that we're going to quickly go over time. I could.
Is that normal, or is that?
It's not normal, but
Okay.
There's a lot of fun things for us to talk about. So I appreciate you spending time with me and my audience. 2 quick things. One is, how, as you enter into, let's just use the most recent, the current year, 2020, when you're working with your leadership team, how do you think about, and this is I don't know what you're going to say, but I think that whatever you're going to say, I want everyone to listen to. And that is, how do you think about the budgeting or developing your forecast for 2020 in terms of, revenue and expenses? And I want to zero down to that expense line item called marketing. How do you think about what type of money, not what are you going to do, not who are you going to spend it with, but how do you define or think about correlating budgets for expenses like marketing based on the outcomes that you hope to achieve in that year? Is there a system to it, or is it less sophisticated than that?
So I'd say, if I take us back to the previous recession that we talked about a minute ago, is that we're going to have another recessionary period, right? Is it this year with election? Is it next year? But historically, we're due, right? Even with the recent stock market, 1,000-point drop, we're still extremely high, right? Real estate is extremely high. Right. So it's not if, it's when. And so what we learned last time is that, by investing in marketing early, and as you may or may not see from your clients, a lot of them, it's hard to get them to even invest in marketing, because in this industry, if you're good and you've got some client relationships and some builder relationships, you're like, hey, we're busy. What do I need any marketing for, right? So the reasons you need marketing is, what if the market changed and you weren't busy? Or what if you wanted to grow your business, right? If you want to grow from 1 million to 2, or 2 to 4, or 4 to 6, right? That's, companies that market, and you're much more knowledgeable in this space than I am, but companies that market to either grow their business to gain market share or to keep from losing market share. And so dealers in our space, because it's so trade and skill dependent, not everyone has to market, right? But people might be comfortable and they might be fine. But if they want to grow their business or they want to be able to grow or build market share, we grew every year during the recessionary period, but we marketed every year during the recessionary period, and we marketed before the recessionary period, and we marketed after the recessionary period. And
how did you know to do that? Because that, when you read the textbooks, that is the right thing to do. It's also the opposite of the knee-jerk reaction most small business owners have. When conditions around them become scary, they will often go, all right, let's huddle up. What can we cut? And marketing and a few other categories are often things that are easy to slash. What you're espousing, or what you practiced back in 09 and 10 and 11 and 12, that was before you and I met, decade before we met. How did you know to do that? Had you read the right book? Had you surrounded yourself with the right advisors or mentors that helped you understand that? Or was it just your common sense?
Well, like you, I consume a lot of knowledge because I'm curious and hungry. So whether that's books or magazines or seminars or whatever. So I don't know how many original thoughts I've had, right? They're all combinations of things that I've learned from thought leaders like yourself or other people in the industry or marketing events. And coming from the car audio background, which is retail, you have to market in that space to get people. Now, not to date myself, but those were yellow page ads. Those were newspaper ads. Those were, and we did events back then. We did car audio competition events and tent sales and all sorts of creative ways to try to kind of drive business. So I would just say it's just from years of hard knocks, of books, of talking to thought leaders, to come up with, what those things are. And then, as you know, some marketing is trial and error, right? It's different in each space. It's different in each market.
Everything doesn't work for everybody. If it was that simple, everybody would have magical, perfect marketing.
Well, and if you're like, hey, what's the 80-20 split on this, right? Like, I want to put all my money into the 20% of marketing that actually works. The problem is, even today with online and lead sourcing and whatever, it's hard to tell, exactly what that 20% of your budget is. Some things are really clear and obvious, like this brought us these leads and is really clearly working. But some of the other stuff is about long-term seed planning. So, just because you're full from dinner doesn't mean you don't sow seed in your field, right? Those seeds are for tomorrow and next month and next crop and next, you know what I mean?
Melissa, are you listening, Melissa? That was a good one. Grab that one. I see that on an Instagram post. That was a quotable. Sorry.
But, it's about sowing seed over a long period of time to grow, right? And it's hard to have a steady hand when you want to cut that line item. It can be hard to say, gosh, should we keep doing this? And then obviously you got to look for that feedback loop and see, what's working and what's not working. And some of it is just trying new things, right? We're changing some of our event format this year to try some new and different things with some vendor only events, where in the past we've done, these evening of technology and stuff would include all of our vendors, right? So we're trying some new and different things to see, like we're not running yellow page ads anymore is what I'm saying.
So I know that I want to have you back on to talk about your events, event-based marketing. One Firefly, our agency, doesn't currently operate in that domain, but I think event-based marketing is one of the best types or forms of marketing our channel could do as it relates to interacting with your customers, prospects, and the design community.
Jordan, you may want to write that down.
Yeah, Jordan, make that happen and get us connected again to do that. But I do want to close on this, Lee, because I am mindful of everyone's time. And that is, I just had it on the screen here. And of course, I want to congratulate you on winning CTA Integrator of the Year back in 2019. And that was a year ago. But what did that mean to you? when you won that. And you were, I think Sean out of Colorado is the most recent winner, and so you were the winner. I think he even called you out on stage, if I remember Sean's speech.
He did. First of all, thank you for thanking us, and second of all, that was so last year.
But I just want to know
for 2020.
What did that mean to you to win that? And then the last question to tie in that is just, those are folks are listening that are trying to grow their business. I'd love if you'd offer a seed or two of wisdom of things they should maybe focus on that would help them grow. Because to be integrator of the year in a national global organization, I mean, that's not a small thing.
So first of all, that after going to, 34, last year was 33 consecutive Consumer Electronics Show, to win an award like that from the CTA Integrator of the Year was very humbling.
Was it an award for going to the most shows in a row?
It was not, because there's actually some people that are up in the 40 plus year range. So,
wow.
Though I'm getting up there, it's going to take maybe another decade before I knock some of those people out.
Sure.
But it was very humbling to do that. And we have a fantastic team. So that's really, the secret, behind our success. And Sean, who is my hero, did try to throw some embarrassment and shame on stage. And we built a great friendship over the years. And he's another pro-source relationship. And Lance Anderson with Admit One, he's probably, their company is probably the most award-winning that I know. And he's always like, dude, you got to enter these awards. You don't enter, you're not going to win, right?
That's right.
And it's one of those things like your marketing that you put effort into, and you can't correlate, oh, this lead came because go at that award. But when you visit Lance out at their showroom, or you see their stuff, you're like, wow, these guys are the bomb.
I was just watching Lance on Facebook this morning, scrolling through my newsfeed, and he had a video up talking about something, but I found myself 2 minutes in watching his full video. It's funny.
Yeah, so that's them doing that seed planting. And so, obviously you've got to do good work to go submit to go get good awards. But I mean, that's an area where, we talk about it.
Is that your advice for those listening, is to enter to win? I mean, if you want to play, if you want to win, you got to play.
For sure about it. But I mean, it's part of the marketing thing overall. You've really got to be, have a strategy, have someone that can help you put that strategy together, and be working on all these things. So it's not just the videos and it's not just the events. Both of those, I think, are two great things. Take video of your work. I've seen some great stuff out there just off technicians' cell phones or other dealers, doing live shots from stuff, right? And a lot of people are nervous about doing it.
Hey, pro tip here. Actually, is an amateur tip, but the new iPhone 11 shoots 4K 60 frame a second video. Check it out on YouTube if you don't have it. It shoots gorgeous video. This video off this phone would be better than what currently exists in most integrators' portfolios for video content.
Yeah, that's a low cost way to get into it. I mean, we can probably get a shot of this, right?
Oh, look at that. That's all right. We got to screen capture that. That's good.
You must have just FedExed that this morning. It just got from Florida to Seattle, like right here. How's that?
It does. Yeah. Don't put that on eBay. That'll go for at least, maybe $8.
Yeah. Look what else just showed up too.
All right. Let's see it. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. We don't wear too many of those.
Do you wear it in the front? This is up in Seattle. It's cold up here. So
I was going to say, it was funny. We just did these for our team at the January.
Sideways, is that all right? Or do you need to be logo first?
Yeah. You're playing it, SoCal style. Got to, be hip. Oh, what? And he's bleeding green. All right. You
can put a question on your show and see if people watch to the end or not. See if they see
how many pieces of gear did Lee pull out in the show? And that'll tell us how long they watched.
There you go.
Well, Lee, it was an absolute pleasure, sir, having you on episode 100. This was a big deal. It was a long time and a lot of hard work getting here. I've got to thank my team. I've got a lot of people working behind the scenes. In particular, I'll call out Stephanie and Allison and Elizabeth and John and Kendall. They all have a role in these shows, ultimately from getting guests onto the show, to getting the interviews done, to getting post-production done, to getting it out on social media, to getting it up on the website, to getting the transcripts done, to interacting with the audio engineers. There's a lot of work that happens to get this done every week. And so I want to give them a shout out, and I want to give you a shout out for being our special guest here on Show 100.
Well, thank you for having us on, and I'll do a shout out to Melissa, our marketing manager, who works with your team all the time, as you know, and on your team, Jordan and Kendall, absolutely kick butt for us. So I don't know if they're listening or not, but they do a great job.
I'm getting some comments. People are saying they want the beanie, so we'll have to see. But Lee, my friend,
hey, where can they find these things?
Those are limited.
Where do you buy one of these at?
Those are, you become a One Firefly customer and we'll talk. How's that? Oh, you got some more. Look at that, man. They sent you all. Did you get the koozie too? Did you get the koozie? Man, we sent you all the goods. Good job, Vanessa. I forgot to give the shout out to Vanessa. So go, Vanessa. You got the bookmarks. I think we sent you our whole inventory. Those are all of our One Firefly branded goods. Well, my friend, appreciate you.
100.
To 100. I appreciate you and Melissa, and have an awesome rest of your week. And I'll see you in it won't be too long, a few weeks down in Vegas.
Weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks.
All right. See ya.
All right. See ya. All right, guys, gals, there you go. We have Show 100. I am going to put a few more shout outs. There's Vanessa. Vanessa, you got all that gear over to Lee and Melissa. So thank you for doing that. And Melissa, you're a rock star, and thank you for being you. And what do we got here? We got Jesse. He says, congrats to 100. Here's to another 100. I appreciate that, Jesse. And actually, you know what? We got James Shapiro. He says, nice job on the great interview. Having 2 locations, buildings, a brand, really replicating success in additional markets. It's so impressive. Nice work. Thank you for being a great mentor to our industry. And in that, I think he's talking to Mr. Lee Travis. So, folks, I am going to give you a quick reminder. You are watching this live. If you're watching this live, don't forget, this content is now out on podcast. We're a little backed up. We owe you a few shows. There'll be, our audio engineer was actually in ISE, and he's back now, and he's working through his backlog of work. But we'll have the last few shows. We'll have those up on your favorite podcast environment. I know I listen to mine on Apple Podcasts. And don't forget to check that out or subscribe so you get all of them. And on that note, I'm going to wish you adieu. Thanks. I know the show was a little longer, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And I will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.